To the Chinese, Mount Wudang is the first mountain under heaven. Its slopes are adorned with spectacular palaces, temples, pavilions, and bridges. Each building is brilliantly designed to harmonize with the landscape. This sacred mountain is a place of tranquility, but it's also the birthplace of Wudang Kung Fu, a martial art that's alive and kicking after 700 years. In Chinese terms, Wudang is a tiny town of 25,000 people. A walk in its streets sums up China today, a fascinating mix of tradition and a headlong dash to modernity. But the town has a unique claim to fame. It lies at the foot of one of China's most revered and sacred sites, Mount Wudang. Taoist pilgrims come here to worship the god Zhenwu. Born as a prince, he practiced martial arts and studied Taoism on Mount Wudang. It's believed that he achieved immortality on these very slopes. His journey to becoming a god was long and hard. People say that the secret to his success was in a mysterious, life-changing encounter that's now a famous legend.
After 4 years of training on Mount Wudang, he got tired and gave up. On the way down Mount Wudang, he met the goddess Guan Yin, who was disguised as an old lady. Guan Yin was sharpening an iron rod. Prince Zhenwu was curious, so he went up to her and asked, "What are you doing with the metal rod?" She replied, "I'm making a sewing needle." Prince Zhenwu was astonished. "How can such a thick rod be sharpened into a needle?" Guan Yin replied, "If a rod can be sharpened into a needle, anything is possible."
Prince Zhenwu realized the wisdom of the old woman's words. If she kept at it long enough, the steel rod she was sharpening could indeed one day become a needle. It was just a matter of time and perseverance. Inspired, Prince Zhenwu turned back up the mountain and returned to his training, determined to reach his goal. It took him more than 4 decades to achieve immortality, finally becoming a god known as the perfect warrior. On the spare land between the foot of Mount Wudang and the town, local people carry on an ancient tradition with deep roots in Taoism. Taoists believe that a force flows through everything in the universe, and that nature provides us with all we need. Such beliefs led early Taoist philosophers to live in remote mountain villages in their attempts to commune with nature. For nearly 2,000 years, Mount Wudang has been a spiritual sanctuary for pilgrims. In fact, Taoists believe that Mount Wudang is located between heaven and earth.
The complex belongs to the royal family, so the scale of architecture is very grand. The architecture is a combination of the emperor and God's divine power.
A World Heritage Site, Mount Wudang has the largest collection of religious buildings on any mountain in Asia. The temples and palaces are spread out over 100 square miles, and it takes days to grasp the scale of the complex. This beautiful mountain setting is in the humid northwestern Hubei province. Its centerpiece is the Chanzu Peak, also known as Mount Wudang. The mountain is more than 1,600 meters above sea level. This vast sacred site is home to 8 palaces, 72 cave temples, 39 bridges, 36 nunneries, 12 pavilions, and 2 temples. During the Ming Dynasty, Mount Wudang was known as a grand spectacle of all ages. It is one of the finest examples of ancient religious architecture anywhere. At Heavenly Pillar Peak, the highest point of the mountain, a striking temple sits atop the cloud-covered summit. Built during the Ming Dynasty in the early 15th century, the Golden Hall is the largest copper building in China. The 90-ton structure was plated entirely in gold in Beijing before being transported miles to this sacred site. Although we can only speculate how it got from Beijing to the mountain, there is a 70-kilometer path winding through it from Xunshan in Sansu Peak, where the temple sits. We do know that the importance of the building to the emperor meant no effort or expense was spared.
The golden temple on top of Mount Wudang may be small, but the materials used are of the highest quality. They have double-eaved roofs and brackets on top of the columns, supporting the beams and roof eaves. The status of the temple is higher than even those temples with bigger surface areas, because the quality of materials used are very high. This was an important building.
The building of the Wudang complex was ordered by the Emperor Zudi after completing the Forbidden City in Beijing. The emperor believed he was a reincarnation of the god Zhenwu, and to pay homage to him, ordered 300,000 builders and artisans to create the religious site where the god Zhenwu became immortal. It was completed in less than 13 years and included a series of ornate stone steps to take pilgrims to the top. Today, the same steps also carry tourists and televised game show competitors from around the world. Mount Wudang is renowned for its scale and grandeur. But it's equally remarkable for the vision behind the design and construction, which ensured there was no damage to the environment.
The construction is an example of eco-architecture, using earth-friendly materials like wood and stone to match the landscape. The builders strictly followed the principles of Taoism to protect and preserve nature. They never touched the mountain structure.
With its ancient examples of environmental friendliness, Wudang was way ahead of today's green movement. In the Nine-Bend Yellow River Hall, a long winding path replaces the more traditional staircase leading up to the main buildings. The builders modeled this unconventional hallway after a river, using unevenly sized bricks to simulate the water's surface and make it follow the curves of the mountain. Even with its bright red banks, this man-made river feels like it's part of the natural landscape.
After entering the hall, the floors are made out of long block stones. They are laid out like the surfaces of rivers and lakes. On either side, the riverbanks are tall and steady, directing people's attention to the design concepts.
The designers may have had the environment in mind, but they were never allowed to sacrifice the emperor's demands for imperial grandeur. Today, crowds of people visit the temple to engrave their wishes on golden locks, literally pinning their hopes and dreams on this ancient shrine. Even with the stone steps, the journey to the temple involved a grueling 40-mile trek up the mountain face. Nowadays, a cable car makes the sacred site much more accessible to visitors. Today, 594 million Chinese live in cities that move at breakneck speed. More and more people seek ways to maintain health and peace of mind. For many, the answer lies in an ancient practice, Tai Chi. Across the nation, the Chinese gather in parks in the early morning to practice. It's a martial art that focuses on harnessing inner strength through slow-motion routines or moving meditation. It's believed to hold the key to a long and contented life. Tai Chi was developed on the slopes of Mount Wudang, which also gave birth to Wudang Kung Fu, China's most popular form of martial arts. Founded by Master Zhang Fu, this martial art advocates the launching of a counterattack only after being struck and overcoming hardness with softness. This form of defense is unique to Wudang Kung Fu.
Wudang martial arts, simply put, is a form of Taoist culture, tradition, philosophy, expressed through a physical form known as wushu, or martial arts. Wudang Wushu focuses on keeping the body healthy. Wudang martial arts place the utmost importance on health and healing.
Wudang Kung Fu has its roots in Tai Chi and has the same aim: to keep the mind and body pure and healthy until death eventually makes the soul one with nature.
Taoists pay extra attention to nature. They believe there is a soul and spirit to all that exists in nature. There are gods in mountains and water, in the rivers and lakes. There is spiritual power in everything around us.
Wudang also has healing powers. The mountain is swathed in luxuriant forests, exotic plants, and abundant medicinal herbs. Out of 1,800 of them, discovered during the Ming Dynasty, more than 400 still grow on Wudang slopes. The use of medicinal plants is taught as part of the studies at the Wudang Kung Fu Academy. Students arrive here not only to train their bodies, but also their minds. To balance out the physical art, they also practice calligraphy, Taoist scripture, traditional Chinese medicine, and folk music.
Wudang Kung Fu is an extraordinary form of martial art. It is very difficult for a person to truly understand it and experience its true form. I feel honored to be a student of one of the oldest cultural traditions of China, because it seems like a lot of the ancient cultures have been forgotten. Many of these forgotten cultures are the most beautiful things that exist. Everything I'm learning now, the martial art, the music, are all valuable traditional teachings that have been passed down from ancient times, and I am proud to be a student.
Traditionally, Wudang Kung Fu was reserved for Taoist priests and was only taught to commoners in secret locations. Masters passed on their craft to hand-picked students.
Ever since I started learning Wudang Kung Fu, my body and health started to recover. Unlike the past, when I fell sick easily, my character has become stronger and more determined, unlike the one which loved to cry when I was young. The other point of Wudang Kung Fu is that it heals the qi of body by cleansing it with circulation. It gives a good aura. The complexion looks better. Another thing is water. Water is a significant icon of Tai Chi. Tai Chi means using softness to defeat the solidness, and water carries that characteristic. By practicing Tai Chi, it allows one to practice how to deal with daily life, like how to stay calm in situations, and analyze before making the right decisions.
Only in recent years has Wudang Kung Fu opened its doors to outsiders. Now, the Academy takes in students from around the world.
It just seems so graceful. And unfortunately, I don't have that grace. But my brilliant teacher there was fabulous and patient.
An ancient tradition is kept alive by students from around the planet seeking an escape from the rat race of modern life by practicing Wudang Kung Fu. Taoists believe they're surrounded by the sacred. Their ultimate aim is to merge their spirits with the environment, because that's where the gods reside. So by getting closer to nature, they get closer to the divine. As one with nature, the buildings of Mount Wudang are a perfect place for pilgrims to make this spiritual journey. And probably the best place of all is the Southern Cliff Temple, also known as the Nanyang Temple. It's a stunning example of how a man-made building can add beauty to an already breathtaking landscape.
Nanyang Temple is the most significant building on Wudang Mountain because it was constructed on the side of the mountain cliff. Without a stable base, the temple could never be erected. This delicate technique and artistic creativity is unique to Wudang architecture. A few days ago, I accompanied a tourist who had a memorable experience. He said, "When I come to Mount Wudang, especially the Southern Cliff Temple, it feels like my heart is communicating with the universe. I am feeling the ultimate peace." This proved that the architecture had achieved the ultimate union with nature.
The building hangs miraculously in midair, and the stone foundations and wooden pavilions appear to merge with the cliffs and forests. Nestled in the surroundings, the Southern Cliff Temple takes worshippers to the heart of nature and closer to their goal of uniting with the natural environment. The temple is built at the spot where Prince Zhenwu is said to have achieved immortality. So the legend goes, as an immortal, his soul disappeared into the forest as a ball of light. For Taoists, this is the perfect conclusion, to merge with the environment so that their spirits sit eternally in their natural surroundings. In such tranquility, they say, you can hear the prince's secrets whispered by the wind. The buildings on Mount Wudang are a physical expression of Taoist beliefs, achieving balance between the natural forces known as yin and yang. Yin represents soft, passive, dark, and cold. Yang represents the opposite, strong, active, bright, and hot. Everything in nature has yin and yang characteristics, and the goal is to achieve a balance.
The architectural style and layout is perfectly balanced in terms of scale and the use of space. The buildings are constructed to balance out the landscape, taking into consideration yin and yang, and the 5 elements of the universe.
The 5 elements of the universe, according to the Chinese, are metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, and were used by Chinese philosophers to categorize and describe the relationships between them. The Purple Cloud Palace, built in 1413, is the perfect example of the Taoist philosophy of balance. The largest of all Wudang palaces, it's where the royal families said their prayers and communicated with the gods. Flanked by water in the front, and mountains at the back, and forests on either side, it balances the yin and yang of nature, bringing harmony and stability.
The Purple Cloud Palace is built completely according to the traditional architecture style. Symmetrical and proportional, it has the most auspicious placement. There is a fish pond at the front, a support at the back, and protection from left and right.
The protection is provided by lions, mirroring the use of a pair of lions within the walls of the Forbidden City in Beijing.
Within architectural design, the Chinese include animals which are considered lucky or good for defense. This tradition has been in existence since the ancient times.
All Chinese architecture is based on the principles of yin and yang. The lions displayed side by side also reflect the yin and yang. For example, if the left side is yang, the lion would be male. If the right side is yin, the lion would be female.
How do you tell the difference? The female lion would always be seen nurturing a lion cub. The male lion would be playing with a silk ball.
The yin and yang in Chinese architecture reflects a desire for balance in life itself. This was the central concern of the visionaries who built Mount Wudang. It wasn't just about beautiful buildings, but about building a beautiful life.
In ancient times, people couldn't even find food and shelter, let alone take care of their health. Now that the standard of living has improved, people are seeking spiritual well-being. They are looking for spiritual wealth. Through Wushu, we hope to bring inner peace to people.
The Chinese landscape is changing at a bewildering pace. In the cities, familiar horizons seem to disappear in the blink of an eye and the swing of a crane. Harmony with nature doesn't come easily, which is why the enduring wonder of Mount Wudang is all the more remarkable. As people seek to escape and to find alternatives from the rat race, they are attracted more and more by the wonder of Wudang.